Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Mim Jor, and today is Thursday, July 18th, 2024. And I've got the awesome Jason Howell back on the show with me. Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How you doing, Miriam? Thank you so much for the invite.
Absolutely. It's so great to have you on the show. And we have a lot of really cool stuff to talk about, too.
Yeah,
so
big hardware
really
week.
Jazzed.
My goodness.
I know. And you know, I hate to say is that last week was all Samsung. And as much as I love some Samsung, it's like...
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of it was just the same old, and this stuff is just so much more fun. So let's talk about Pixel first, because this just happened like just a couple of hours ago.
Mere moments ago.
I know. Like
Google did what it's done before. It got sick and tired of the fact that all these leaks were happening and said, all right, let's just own them. Here, we'll leak our device for you.
Yeah, and they went beyond that. I mean, they actually did a video, which I think is a very well done video. And then they put it up on their website as like a, pre-order kind of deal. And that's pretty cool, right? Like, have they've done this before? I mean, they have.
They have, yeah, for sure.
But
I can't remember how many years ago.
With the pre-order page, I don't remember them doing that.
Yeah, with the pre-order page, that's a good question. I don't remember that either, actually. I think essentially when they've done it in the past, it's, okay, to get out of the rumors, here is the thing, so that our official images and press photos make it into all these articles. But you still had to be there for the event to get the pre-order. But Samsung's been doing this for a while, right? The kind of part of their standard playbook now is put up the pre-order page before they've made the official like unveiling announcement sort of thing.
Or, they're out of control. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan, but I am glad that Google decided, hey, let's give them some love, because I mean it's a month away, or a bit less than that now.
And it's pretty looking too.
Yeah, I think it's very hot.
I do too. I really like that they're kind of modifying the camera bar. They've had the kind of signature camera bar for quite a while at this point. It's obvious when you look at a phone, Pixel phone, you know exactly what you're looking at. This keeps it in the family, but still gives it a little bit of that kind of rounded character that differentiates it a little bit. Does look a little funky on the fold from what I've seen, but
it's very Bender now for reals, right?
Yes. Totally.
We finally, they leaned right into it, right? It's like, let's go all out.
I'm excited though.
I am a little bummed though that, and honestly, I love this design overall. It's very cohesive, but I am a little bummed that everybody's following suit with Apple on the slab sides, the flat sides. Like, I personally don't have any issue with the flat sides per se. It's more the issue that with the rounded corners, right, that everybody's going for right now, and combined with the slab sides, you get this iPhone, like any phone from the front, if it's turned off and you can't see the cutout, the notch or whatever, looks like you don't know what it is. It looks like an iPhone. It could be a Samsung Galaxy S24. You don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
And that bugs me.
Yeah,
that bugs me.
I mean, there's so much same in the phone industry. I guess I kind of give it,
It's interesting that the sides look polished.
That's what I'm looking at right now. Like, the sides look very polished, and even though they're flat sides, they still have a bit
of a rounded edge.
A bit of a rounded edge there that, at least from one of the photos that's in the Verge article, it almost looks unibody, even though I know it's not. You know what I mean? It almost looks like one singular piece of something, but it's not. Those sides are metallic, or I don't know, maybe they're titanium. I honestly don't know. And you better believe the front and back's going to be glass.
Yeah, it looks hot. I think that
it does look nice.
Yeah, again, I feel like I like the squareness of the old Pixels in some ways, like the Pros. But if you're going to go round, this is a good way to do it. Like rounded corners. And you're right. Like it's not going to dig into your hand as much because they've kind of curved off these edges, the sharp edges. Nothing did this as well, from the Nothing Phone 1 to the Nothing Phone 2. And it does make the phone a lot more comfortable to hold.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I know that it's a little bit of a dated phone now, but I've been using the OnePlus 12. I was kind of behind the curve. And so I decided to spend time with it. I've got a review coming up here pretty soon. But,
Nice.
it definitely takes the approach of the super rounded, like there really is no such thing as a flat side, maybe the top and the bottom on here. And I just find that like for things like holding it up for pictures and things like that, I'm less certain that I've got a good hold on it when it's rounded like that. Like it's sleek, but the flat edges give my fingers something kind of, like a platform to hold on to that gives me a little bit more confidence. So that's one thing that I've noticed.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I kind of prefer the flat glass nowadays than the round edges.
So do I.
That OnePlus
100%.
has. But I'm, having lived with many phones that kind of rounded edges, curved sides, whatever you want to call it, I'm actually very forgiving about it now. But yeah, overall, I think this is a step in the right direction design wise. This adds some delight to the experience, I think. And
I'm looking forward to it.
As somebody who's rocking a Pixel 8 Pro right now, here's the thing. I'm the most excited about the folding phone, actually. What is it going to be called?
It's like 5 words, and I can't keep the order straight, but Pixel Fold Pro XL, blah, blah, or I don't know, something like that.
Pro 9 Fold.
There you go. Pixel Pro 9 Fold. Okay, 4 words.
No, Pixel 9 Pro Fold.
There you go.
Pixel 9.
That
Pixel
sounds,
9 Pro,
yes.
Pixel 9 Pro XL, Pixel 9 Pro Fold.
Jeez.
Damn.
Word salad at a certain
the reason
point.
I'm excited is because I really, I'm a Pixel experience person, but I'm also very much into folding phones now. The OnePlus Open really got me to, pardon the pun, open up to folding phones. Like until that phone.
That's interesting. It's a great phone. It was a great phone. I totally get it. But it's interesting that OnePlus of all companies is the company to do that. And now you're not alone. There's a lot of people that they're like, okay, this is kind of like the shining example of how you do fold.
See, I already dug the flip phones. Like I totally immediately got into that. I was like, okay, it's a phone, that's smaller and a little thicker when it's folded up and it's got front display. I get it. And I got into it early on those. But then I couldn't really get the Chinese folding phones for some reason because they were really hard to get by in terms of review units. And, Samsung was the name of the game. And from the last 5 generations, kind of left me cold. I was just like, it's the form factor, that kind of tall skinniness that they have going.
Tall skinny.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
So
I'm a tall guy. You'd think I'd like tall skinny.
I know,
but,
right?
On the front cover screen, it just, anytime I have that, it feels like a mistake. Like it feels like, seriously, you haven't corrected this yet? Like I guarantee you,
so it's a lot
many
better
people
this year.
pick this up and feel the same way.
It's a lot better this year. Like they added, it's amazing how just 3 millimeters make a difference.
Yeah, right.
I'm liking it a lot more, but it's still, I would still pick the OnePlus Open, absolutely. But so the Open was so well sorted, short of wireless charging, was the only thing I can fault it for lacking. I was so impressed with it that I immediately kind of went into it, and I've continuously used it since it launched. It's been in my pocket as my second phone. So what I want to do is combine the two now. So I'm very excited to see what Google does with the folding phone, because if they can meet my requirements on that folding phone in terms of camera quality, which they did with last year's Pixel Fold, it was fine, and the Open is pretty good in camera. And it's thin. It has to be thin. I hear it's going to be much thinner. It has to be, good displays, good everything. Tensor is still going to be meh, but that's going to be the case on the 9 Pro XL as well, which would be my alternative. So the way I look at it is, if they nail this, I'm going fold full time, because that's it. All I needed was a Pixel that folded that didn't suck. And if they can deliver that, don't get me wrong, the Pixel Fold doesn't suck, but it wasn't quite ready for me. I was not quite ready for prime time. Tensor 2 is kind of a problem. The large bezels, the thickness, the reflectiveness of the screen. That's the one thing I think that the Open really nailed. Like you open it up and it's like no glare, just beautiful canvas in front of you. So yeah.
And the kind of thing that you don't notice until you do, or until you see suddenly a phone that does it right. And it's one of those things that's really hard to go back on.
So August 13th, we'll have to stay tuned and take a look. I'm excited about it.
It's in the area too. So my plan is to finally make an event, hopefully.
I asked to go, but they said, you're with Team Pixel, so stay tuned and you'll hear from them.
Okay.
So I have
still
a
don't
feeling,
understand really the difference between team. I guess one is press and one is
yeah, but the
fan
problem is
or
it's
influencer, or I don't know.
was basically what it is. But the problem is this: is that if you're on press, I've vacillated between them. I've asked to be moved around, and at times they've moved me around without really, telling me.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. But the point is, like, again, this is not like beggars can't be choosers, and I'm not going to complain here.
Sure.
But as considering I'm a Pixel user and a Nexus user all along, like my main phone has always been a Pixel. There was a brief time where I had a OnePlus 8 Pro, I think. But, and I would totally rock a OnePlus 12 Pro Open right now, but I'm so addicted to all the wonderful call screening and all that other stuff, yeah. So
totally
the point I'm making though is that from what I understand, if you're media, if you're a journalist, you can be asked to be on the press side, but then if you're kind of a lower tier, you're not going to get review units, or you're not going to get review units at least in a timely manner. So I then got switched over to Team Pixel because I kind of asked for that, because Team Pixel actually gets you review units in a timely manner, but then you don't get invited to the events. But the weird thing is, in my case, Google Press invited me to I/O. So I'm like, where am I? So I actually emailed them a nice email.
You're all
said,
things,
guys.
Miriam.
Like, I'm like, I know. I'm like, where am I? Like, I hear there's an event on the 13th. I haven't heard anything from you or Team Pixel. What's the deal? And they're like, yes, Team Pixel will be in touch. And because you're on that. And I was like, I'm just making sure, just understand that I was really confused because I got invited by press. And now I'm like, where am I? Have I been switched around again? You know, but then again, no, I haven't, because my Pixel 8a arrived from Team Pixel. So I should know. Anyway, look, this is all inside baseball. The bottom line is, I don't know what device Team Pixel is going to send me. And I'm really hoping, like, somehow last year I got a Pixel Fold, which was like, I don't know how I got that, but I did. And I got the Pixel 8 Pro, and I got the Pixel 8a and the 7a before that. So hopefully, look, any of them that they send me, I'll be happy with, but it better be a Pro.
I have yet to have as my daily driver, like permanently full time, any sort of foldable. I've been a day tripper or a review tripper, but I've not been okay, this is now my daily driver, and so I'm kind of in a similar boat than what it sounds like you're saying as far as the Pixel Fold. I'm really looking forward to the Fold 2, or whatever they're calling it. I'm just going to call it the Fold 2. Just because I have a good feeling that I might actually be able to get a hold of it as a review unit this time. And if I do, chances are that's probably going to be what I'm rocking going forward. That's my hunch.
Yeah, I mean, they would have to mess it up in a major way in one of my critical, like battery or camera, which I doubt they will, or even something else that's unexpected. Like, honestly, I want a screen that's not too glossy, and I don't want too much of a fold, like a crease. If they can deliver that and not too thick, like, that's the thing, at least as good as the Open. I'm willing to make some compromises in some areas to be maybe a little thicker or whatever. That's fine, but we'll see. And because honestly, I'm kind of done now that I've used the Open for almost a year with having my main phone not fold. But at the same time, I can't not have a Pixel. So,
So here you are, best of all worlds coming soon.
You got it. So let's see how it goes. But I'm super excited. I'm super excited about this.
Yeah, me too.
Let's talk about OnePlus, since we were just talking about them. They announced a whole bunch of new stuff this week.
Yeah, they did. Talk about big hardware events.
Are you excited?
Yeah.
I want to preface this for the folks watching on video on Patreon here, that I haven't unboxed them yet, so expect videos. But I have the Watch 2R here and the Buds 3 Pro, the Nord Buds 3 Pro. So I'm showing that right now on video for those of you watching on Patreon. I'm not going to unbox this here because, well, I'd like to do a video. But I just got these, and the pad is on its way. So expect more coverage on that. So what are your thoughts on these devices? And also there's a Nord 4, but that's not for us. It's for Europe.
Right, yeah.
And India and stuff.
Don't know a whole lot about the Nord 4, but we did actually talk a lot about the Pad 2, the Buds, and the Watch as well.
I really like the original pad.
Yeah, I liked the original pad. I'm super curious to get my hands on the Pad 2 and play around with that. I mean, as far as like a tablet in the home, I'm kind of tabletless right now. I'm kind of floundering when it comes to the tablet world for the most part right now. Kind of looking for my next home. So maybe it's the OnePlus Pad 2 Seems nice. $550 for the Pad 2.
And it's pretty high end. Like the specs
Yeah.
are like
I mean, it's
Snapdragon
got
8
the
Gen 3.
8 Gen 3, yeah, absolutely.
It still has a 144 hertz display, but it's a larger display now. It's like 12.1 instead of
12.1.
11.6, I think was on the
Yeah.
original.
Yeah,
High res.
LCD.
Yeah, LCD. Still has IPS. It still has the 7.5 aspect ratio, which actually I liked. Big battery, of course. 67-watt charging, another thing you get from OnePlus. You know, I'm currently
always
wearing the
charging.
OnePlus Watch 2, not the 2R. And
Yes.
one of the things I love about this watch, it's a fantastic watch all over. But one of the things that after years of Samsung and Pixel watches, it charges so fast.
Yeah.
It's just so nice.
It
like
does.
I put it on the stand and I'm done in like 30 minutes, you know?
Really, any of that battery anxiety goes out the window because, you know, you get days on it. I mean, I'm basically at my current settings on that watch getting about 4 days of charge on it, of wear, which is great. And then when I do get that notice that like 20%, do you want to switch modes? I literally put it on that charger for what feels like a moment. And I'm right back in action. It's awesome.
It's amazing. Yeah. Also,
Agreed.
this has a new stylus called the Stylo 2, and that one has haptics in it. So it apparently emulates with a very, very accurate linear vibration motor, like a Taptic engine type motor, like what Apple uses in the Apple Watch. The act of scraping the tip on paper.
No, I did not read that. Are you serious?
I'm not joking.
Okay, withhold judgment. For some reason, I have a hard time believing that that's convincing, but I will withhold judgment until I get the chance
you know
to do
that Apple would be the only company to do this right.
Yeah.
So I know, no
That would
offense
be
to
my
OnePlus, but I hear that's the thing. That's the thing.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah, let's see, right?
I mean, I can understand the why behind that. Like that does seem like a frivolous feature, and it probably is really at the end of the day. But I do know that I've used stylus or styli enough on screens to know that there is a very perceptible difference in the feel of using a stylus on a screen versus what we're also accustomed to writing on paper. So, you know, maybe that changes things. Maybe that is the difference between someone actually opting or deciding to use a tablet for some of these things versus not, if they get it right. And that's the big question mark for me.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, you know, we have to keep in mind is that, you know, taptics or haptics, when done right, like Apple showed us with the trackpad that it really feels like you're clicking a trackpad.
Oh yeah.
But you're not. Like it's not it's barely moving. Like
no. But you wouldn't know.
And it's only, you can see it flex a bit and that's it. And to me, that shows that, you know, if done right, it could work. And
totally.
That's
true.
We've all seen how the new iPad Pro with the new stylus, whatever, the Apple Pencil, how it does the shadow. Did you ever see that video where it projects a fake shadow? And if you rotate the pen, like it even rotates the shadow, like it's insane, right? So if Apple does it that well, it's only logical to me that Apple would add haptic support for the next generation, because you know they would do it. Like chalk, imagine chalk. You know the feeling of chalk.
Yeah, that's true.
That would be so.
That's a really good point. Like
Yeah.
that puts it into terms that suddenly I'm like, okay, there's like an actual functional reason for that, because maybe that actually for an artist who is very adept with you know drawing or doing art with chalk, maybe that makes the difference of translating that into the digital realm better when you have a little bit of that kind of like perceived resistance of sorts, you know?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I think it'll be cool. The other thing, of course, you got the synchronization in OnePlus devices. It's the same thing as Oppo. This is essentially an Oppo tablet, right? So, and then we've got 6 speakers now instead of 4. I don't know why, but I'm sure it'll be great.
Little louder, little clearer, I'm sure. Yeah.
But the watch and the earbuds, so I'll be honest, I've cheated. I took the earbuds out of the box already.
Did you record an unboxing?
No, because I tell you what I did. I was able to take it apart without like affecting, you know.
The tape was already kind of coming off. And
here they are, and you're going to laugh, right? So check this out. For those who are watching on video, you see how the tips are blue instead of black?
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to rip open the tips that are in the box. Like I was able to slide this out of this plastic container thing.
Yeah.
And there weren't any tape on the contacts of the buds. So I was able to like immediately use them. but the tips that were on it were the small tips, and I need medium. And so I grabbed the tips from
You
my
borrowed 'em.
OnePlus from my OnePlus Buds 3, which are identical in shape and
Yeah.
size. And
Yeah.
and so I grabbed the medium tips from my OnePlus Buds 3. And
Smart.
and then I've been able, and so I want to tell you folks that since I have, when you watch my unboxing, those of you who listen to the podcast will know it's fake. But those of you who want to know right now, these things sound pretty damn great if you tune the EQ. They're very bass heavy by default, which is what they're designed to do. Like they were kind of like, they didn't want to follow the Harman curve as much as they did with their OnePlus non-Nord buds, but you can fix that. There is a slider for the actual bass itself. You can slide it all the way down. And I was able to get, it's pretty much the same EQ curve for me to sound like I want it than the other OnePlus buds from the past. So yeah, is it as good? No, they're definitely lower quality overall, but the ANC works great. You don't get wireless charging or anything like that, but for the money, I mean, can't complain. How much are they? Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to look up right now. And they are $80, $80 American.
79. And then the watch is really interesting because to be spec-wise, feature-wise, it looks identical to the Watch 2. Just cheaper.
I wonder, does it lack any girth? You know what I mean? Because I mean, they're both the same face. The face is the same size, right? 1.43 inch.
Yeah, so it's got a flat screen instead of a rounded edge to the screen. Doesn't have that.
Okay, so
3D
that's
glass.
going to make it a little shallower.
And also, it's not stainless steel; it's aluminum, so it's going to scratch.
Got it. Okay.
If you hit it on something like a rock or concrete wall, you're going to get scuffs on the
let's face it.
metal.
This is your
More
wrist
so
we're talking about. It's going to happen.
I mean,
at some
for me,
point.
it's inevitable. Like,
yeah, me too.
My OnePlus watch has a few nicks, not on the glass, surprisingly, because I think it's sapphire.
It is sapphire,
so it's really hard to. But on the
and this has sapphire as well, by the way.
On the actual rim around the glass, the metal part. But this, from what I've seen, It actually, let me open this. The box is already open. I just haven't taken the watch out, but I'll show you real quick for those of you on video.
Just can't help
you can see how it's really flat. Right?
Oh, it is flat. Yeah, you're right.
It's completely different design than the actual Watch 2, which here, if I show you the Watch 2, you can see how the glass is 3.5 or 2.5D. So, but it's interesting to me that it's much lighter because it's not made of stainless steel. So that's kind of cool. If you want a lighter watch with the same functionality, what's the price on the OnePlus Watch 2 comparatively?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember. $299.
So you're paying
$300.
about $60 less.
I mean, you can get it on Amazon for $270.
Or $70
$270 plus tax.
So,
okay, so $70 less for a material on the base that is more,
and I'm not sure it's
likely to
sapphire.
see.
It might actually be Gorilla Glass or something.
No, I'm pretty certain it's
Does
sapphire
it say
crystal.
still sapphire on the 2R? Wow,
that's my understanding. Sapphire crystal, aluminum casing. Yeah,
nice.
So you get the downgrade in casing. I mean, I think the upgrade is probably worth it. This is the thing that you're going to be wearing on a regular basis, and I don't know about you, but like if I'm wearing a t-shirt and I feel like hot shit, and then suddenly I look down and I see a stain on it, I don't feel like hot shit anymore. And even though it's the same shirt I was wearing 5 minutes earlier, same with a watch. You're going to wear this thing all the time. Guaranteed your wrist is going to bump into something, and the second it has that nick on it.
Oh, I'm really good at scratching glass on my watches, on my smart watches. My Pixel watch, my original, has a big gash in it. My Honor watch has a big gash in it. My original OnePlus watch has a big gash on it. It's but so far, the OnePlus Watch 2 has survived without any gashes, other than a bit of, some small marks on the stainless steel.
Yeah, when I first got the 2, it was so big, and I was so used to the Pixel Watch 2 that I was like, this is amazing battery life, but I'm just not down with the size. I'm too used to the Pixel Watch. By the end of my review period with the OnePlus Watch 2, it converted me. I went back to the Pixel Watch and put that back on. I was like, okay, this thing's just small. The battery life, once I really got used to that battery extension, oh man, it's so hard to go back. So yeah, this is great. Getting that extra battery life for, a good chunk less if you're willing to do the trade-off for the materials. Could be
I'm
worth
just
it for you.
surprised actually that it's not a huge difference in price and not a huge difference in specs and size. Like I would have expected, because it's an R watch, like an R product, that would be like, they might not have the same chipset, or it'd be a smaller diameter, or, something else like that. So it's actually interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's same with the colors. Like the colors are the same essentially.
Yeah, looks like it.
So anyway, I welcome this. I'm just saying, like, my job is to be critical. So there you go. These are my thoughts. OnePlus Nord. So I can talk a little more about that because I did poke at OnePlus for some more info. I'm a big fan of the Nord line. We talked about this on the podcast a few times in the past, but the gist of it is this. Basically, the Nord was the last phone that Carl Pei kind of like stewarded at OnePlus before he went off to create Nothing. And if you look at Nothing today, you can really see like he took that idea of Nord and brought it to Nothing. It was about design. It was about affordable. It was about specs that didn't suck. Basically a well-rounded device. Nothing specifically was great, but everything was cohesive. And, they've come out with a couple of more Nords since then, and they're okay. But this Nord 4, again, it's okay. It's not like quite as impressive as the original Nord was, right? Because that was really kind of, I would say, genre-defying, because nobody had done a phone with those specs with that kind of money. And we were all scratching our heads trying to figure out how they were making money at it, honestly, back then. And now you know that Nothing is doing that. Like CMF Phone 1, which we covered last week on the show. Like that thing, I can't wait to get my review in it. We're going to talk about the CMF devices that you're playing with in a second. But like, I feel like, honestly, it's like Carl Pei and his team have nailed it. Like, Phone 2 is more a flagship, but Phone 1 is a good example of like balancing things. Phone 2A is a good example of balancing things. Oh, also, Phone 2A Plus was announced today. Did you see that?
Oh, yes, that's right. I did see in the middle of my crazy chaotic day, I did see that it was announced. Yes.
Yeah.
I know nothing about kind of the changes.
Yeah, it's just a teaser. They basically sent us like this image and said, stay tuned for 5 a.m. Eastern time on July 31st. And we have a new variant of the Nothing Phone 2A. We call it the Nothing Phone 2A Plus. So yay, I'm looking forward to that. So back to the Nord. So the Nord 4, what stands out to me about the Nord 4 is it's, again, affordable, good design, good specs for the money. And in this case, they've really gone crazy for the fact that it's back to the days of like HTC M7, HTC M8.
Oh, totally. It's a total throwback.
It's a unibody metal with a tiny, like 1/4 of the back is glass and it has the window for the antennas and the camera bump in it. And it's basically, how the Poco phones always look, where the camera pod is like shiny versus the body is matte. But there, the matte part is actual metal and the shiny part is actually glass, which is really cool.
What a throwback. It really does remind me of old school
And it
HTC.
has the alert slider, which for a while, I think Nord original had it. Nord 2, they'd removed it, I think. Like it kind of came and went, but this has it. And the specs on it are pretty, again, it's very much a balance, right? Snapdragon 7 Gen 3, fine. 7 Plus Gen 3 to be specific. Yeah. You've got like lots of storage, you got lots of RAM, you got a nice display at 120 Hertz. It's 1240p, so it's like halfway between Quad HD and 1080p. And, 50 megapixel main camera with OIS. Ultra wide is 8 megapixel. There's no stupid 2 megapixel sticker cam, which I'm glad we're starting to see that go away.
Yeah, me too.
Lately, like Poco's gone away with it. Realme went away with it on some of their phones recently.
Do you call it a sticker cam because it's like an extra thing for the box to say, yeah, we've got 3 cameras?
Yeah, basically, it's like you might as well put a sticker. It's like a 2 megapixel useless cam.
Oh, totally. Yes.
Right?
I never understand that.
But look, it looks really hot. And, it's got like 100-watt charging, 5,500 milliamp hours. That thing's going to last forever. And overall, I think this is a solid little offering, and it's also not coming to the US, obviously, like all the Nords. So
of course, no wireless charging, so you don't have the wireless charging.
No, the Nord never did have it, so that's fine. But ultimately, if you look at the specs, I think it's pretty solid. The price is pretty good too, and you're looking at £429 or €529. So if it's sold in the US, it'd be $500. This would
500 bucks.
compete with basically Pixel 8a,
Mm-hmm.
which, it's hard to beat the Pixel 8a, but
It is.
this
Indeed.
might be competitive in Europe and India and other markets. So,
and OnePlus was kind of slow on the AI game, and so if that matters to you, this is AI on the mid-range chipset. So they've got the AI audio summary, note summary, this thing called Link Boost that reconnects to mobile networks faster than ever. Also an AI group feed to make sure that no one is blinking in the photo.
Oh yeah.
So OnePlus is catching up a little bit as far as AI on the mobile.
Yeah. At least it's not the Nord N series or the Nord C series.
Right.
Which are kind of very, much more budgety than this Nord. So There you go. That's the update on what OnePlus is doing right now, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot. So the pad's coming. Stay tuned for my thoughts on that. Tell us about your experience with the CMF watch and CMF earbuds.
Oh yeah. So the CMF watch
you didn't get the
Pro
buds.
2.
I mean, you didn't get the phone.
I didn't get the phone. No, I just got the watch and then I got the buds. They didn't have the phone to send my way. Hopefully someday they do, but maybe they won't. And that's fine. $69 for the Watch Pro 2. I'm sure you talked kind of about specs and all that stuff last week and everything.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean that's super inexpensive, and I mean yes, it does. A lot of the thing. Actually, honestly, what it reminds me of, I think what it most reminds me of is the original OnePlus watch. Now, granted, it doesn't look like the original OnePlus watch. It's definitely got a very kind of pretty unique.
Does it come
design.
with both bezels in the box? Like
No.
It's got a flat bezel and a round bezel, right?
Oh shoot! If it does, I didn't tear the box open enough to find out. I pulled out the watch, put it on my wrist, and moved on with my life. There might be another bezel in there. I didn't
try it out.
But I mean, the bezel comes off super easily. Like bloop, it comes off.
So the last watch that I reviewed that had a removable bezel like that was the Xiaomi watch S3, I think it was, and it was awesome watch. It was also like one of those dumb smart watches, as in like a fitness band on steroids, like the original OnePlus watch, and like this is. And I dig those because the battery life on them is like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, right.
But the thing is,
11
that
days
bezel, I lost it all the time.
Oh, really? I did wonder about that.
And it came with like 3 or 4 in the box, and I went through all of them, and eventually I retired the watch because I was like, well, I got no more bezels to put on, so I'm done now.
Yeah, how does the watch look without a bezel? If you had to rock it without a bezel, boy, yeah, it's looking a little circuity.
So I lost one in New Orleans, I lost one in Sweden, and I lost one here in the Bay Area. I lost one on my trip to Seattle. Like every time I go to I don't know what it is. Like I eventually I got in the habit of making sure it was clicked in place.
Yeah.
Because somehow just brushing, sleeping in it, like it would just come off. So hopefully tell us, like in the next few podcasts you do, as you continue using it, tell us how it's actually faring for you. Like, is it coming off in your sleep? Are you randomly looking at your watch and it's gone and you find it on the floor by backstepping a few steps?
I can tell you safely right now that I've worn it for the past 3 days. Now, granted, right now it's not synced because I'm switching phones, so I need to sync it to my phone that I'm going to. But I've worn it for the past 3 days and I haven't had any issues with the bezel. There's none of that. Haptics feel pretty okay, I'd say, reasonable. They're not, I've felt much worse as far as haptics. The display quality is really nice. It's very sharp, colorful.
Is it
display. OLED? Is this OLED? Yeah, it is an AMOLED, actually.
That's amazing for the money. Wow.
For sure. So it's got that punchy color.
Go back 10 years ago. Think about Pebble Watch. And look at the tech in this.
Yeah, big time difference. Heart rate, sleep, stress, SpO2 sensors. I hate the strap. I just can't.
What is it? Leather?
It's like a pleathery
leather.
It just really reminds me of like a Swatch watch from when I was a kid. It's just, you want to replace that, which you can.
What do you want?
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, always with a device that costs this low, I have to remind myself continuously, like, okay, it doesn't do all things, but it's not going to. It's $69. And I'd say, like I said, it reminds me of the original OnePlus watch, which the ding on the OnePlus watch was, oh yeah, but it's not Wear OS. But at the same time, you got amazing battery life out of it. It does all sort, just like 120 sports modes of tracking. It's got GPS. So it does
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of things, notification triage, watch faces, which granted, it's not a watch face store that, with third party,
No, but you get the
developers or anything, but
basics. Yeah.
you get the basics. And for $70, that might just be the right price point for someone to just get one on their wrist, So yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. Very interesting.
It's funny because when the OnePlus Watch came out, I gave it a really positive review, despite the fact that I acknowledged there were a lot of issues with software, like a lot of bugs and a lot of things weren't perfectly accurate with step counting stuff. I said, look, I'm not normally one to renew things on what could be happening with the software updates, but I knew they were fixing because they told me they were working on it. So and sure enough, like within days of my review, some software issues got fixed.
Yeah.
But the thing that just really bugged me about that review from other journalists was that nobody understood, because they're all so used to Apple. Nobody understood that there's an entire category out there that is much bigger than Apple Watch of freaking fitness bands on steroids, basically smartwatches that are dumb, right?
Right.
That are basically like 2-week battery life. They have all the sensors. They do all the stuff. They do the workouts. They do notifications, but they have no apps. They don't do Google Maps. They don't do app payments. They don't do, all that stuff. But they're perfectly viable. Like think Pebble. Like it did the job. It gave you notifications. In fact, Pebble doesn't have any of the like heart rate sensors and oxygen blood sensors and stuff. So like, what's the big deal? Like, how can you not wrap your head around that? It really drove me nuts that the journalists couldn't separate the two in their heads and review it in the context of a 2-week dumb watch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I totally know what you're saying.
Anyway, so what about the buds?
I'm curious on that one. The buds. So these are of course the
I
CMF
love the
buds.
dial on there.
Gotta love the dial. And you know what's so great about the dial is it's a satisfying dial. Like, I mean, it just the ASMR qualities of this case.
Oh, nice.
It's just, and
so
it feels
those of you
as
watching
nice
on
as it
Patreon
sounds
right now would see the case and the dial. You can hear it though. So wait,
and you can program the dial. These are $59.
Oh, Jesus.
And orange is the new black this year, so I got the orange colors, and
they have ANC, right?
Yeah, they have 50 dB ANC, 11-hour battery. Got actually a total of 43 hours of playback with the case. The buds themselves, they're kind of what they remind me of. I didn't get a chance to, have my hands on any of the Samsung hardware last week, but I know that the buds that they released have kind of like flat sides. They're kind of triangular, right? And these have a little bit the flat side kind of style approach too, which is, kind of nice from a grabby
it's interesting because the Nord buds are like that too. Yeah, the Nord buds are like that too. Not these as much. These new ones here are not that much, but the old Nord buds were really kind of flat. So what's interesting? I've got the Nothing buds, like the Ear and the Ear A, which are absolutely fantastic. Like sound quality wise, if these sound anything like a detuned version of the Ear and Ear 2, I think they're going to be at that price an incredible deal, because these OnePlus are detuned versions of the better OnePlus ones. And they still sound, they could be better. They're not as good as the Nothing ones. So I wonder what the CMF ones sound like. What's your experience been?
I mean, I have not done music yet. I've done calls, of which, performed pretty well for me in a couple of calls. I've done podcasts, like, and some YouTube videos and everything. Sounds fine. I mean, it's hard because I haven't really put it through the music test yet. So I don't know, like, that from a sound quality, sound frequency range perspective, are they hyping any of the frequencies? Are they doing any of that? I can't tell you on that. I will say that the controls on the case is a really interesting approach. I've never had a pair of buds that has controls on the case before. And as satisfying as this dial is, I went for a walk last night with my dogs and had this in my pocket. And I did notice that it can sometimes switch in your pocket, so it can kind of rotate, and that might change the volume when you don't necessarily want it to. So that's something to keep in mind. But still, it's so satisfying. And it's just one of those design notes, that's like, is it necessary? No, but I'm glad they did it because it's a total differentiator. And it's almost like a fidget toy. It just feels nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig it. So, I'm excited to get my review units on those CMFs. I'm also getting the phone. Jane said she would be in touch soon
Mhm.
with all three of them. I was not in the first round, but the phone is what I'm really excited about, honestly. So, looking forward to that.
Yeah, me
So we
too.
got a bunch more news too. Honor finally launched the Magic V3, the thinnest
Thinnest
folding phone on the
ever.
planet.
That's insanity.
Like,
That's really
wow.
cool. Yeah, 5150
4.7 millimeter
milliamp hour
unfolded.
battery as well. So it's not like it's skimping on the
Uh,
battery front.
I mean, how is that possible?
I don't
Like,
know.
I don't know. Well, last year we were completely blown away by the battery life, the battery size, the thickness. Let me start this again. We were blown away last year by the V2, 9.9 millimeters, and 4.7 open. That was the V2. The V3, though, is 9.2 millimeters and 4.3 millimeters open. And as you said, like 5,100 milliamp hour battery. Last year's was also an insane amount for the size of the thickness of the thing. I think they're using those carbon nanotube batteries or whatever, the latest that is really only available in China right now. And that's why
Mm,
they're able to pack that much density into them. But
yeah.
wow, right? This thing is
And
hot.
and probably a part of the reason why we don't see Honor much here in the US. I just got back from a trip through Italy. And actually, Honor
Yeah.
was one of the manufacturers that I spotted in more than a handful of other people like riding the train and stuff. I was like, oh, here's the Honor that I've been missing in my life.
Nice. Yeah, and you look at the specs like Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, 16 gigs of RAM, it's LPDDR5, it's got UFS 4 storage, 1 terabyte, it's got a 50 megapixel main camera with an f over 1.6 aperture in OIS, it's got a periscope 3.5 optical telephoto.
Love
Like,
that.
how do they manage to pack all this in such a thin? It's impressive. It's really,
Mhm.
really impressive. So I gotta say, I'm very, very impressed. Now the prices are Chinese prices. I don't know, like what that comes out to, about $1,500.
Converted
You
from
know?
what I read was around 13, like 1240, 1300
Oh
converted,
yeah,
like a
1,500 is for
simple
the
conversion.
terabyte,
Yeah.
the terabyte version. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
look, I think this thing is amazing.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Also, they claim the thinnest hinge to date. So I didn't realize that there was a thinness hinge war happening as well, but apparently there is. But I guess you'd have to if you're going for a
Yes,
thinner device. I guess you'd have to
no
work
idea about
on
that.
thinning out the hinge. Yeah.
This is pretty crazy. Anyway, I doubt I'll get a review in it. I didn't get a review of the V2 last year. I'm not tight enough with Honor for that. But especially their Chinese only phones, they're not. I mean, here's what I'm thinking. IFA is coming up soon in Berlin in September. They might announce the V3 for Europe because they did the V2 for Europe at IFA last year. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe we will get the V3 international global version at IFA. We'll see.
Love to see. Love to see it.
Um, so that's one phone they launched. And then, of course, because that wasn't enough, they launched a VS3, which is like a cheaper model.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what's different? Okay, 8
A
Gen
little thicker.
2 instead of 8 Gen 3.
It's a little thicker, but still very, very thin. 9.8 millimeters
Yeah,
when
what is
folded
it?
still.
It's thinner than last year's V2.
Yes, yes. It's still essentially the second thinnest foldable out there, according to Honor.
That is crazy. Just crazy. Yeah, I don't know how they do it. This is amazing. Let's see what else we got here. I mean, the displays are nice. What's the cameras like? Okay, so it's definitely a bit detuned in terms of cameras. The periscope is an 8 megapixel periscope. It's 5x optical.
Mm.
Battery's a little smaller. Prices are lower. $1,000, $1,200 for the 1 terabyte version. So yeah, interesting.
What?
Yeah, I find it weird that they would go through the effort of doing two phones like that. What about you?
Yeah, and to really go, so below the mark on the second one, to get it still, quite as thin as they were able to. Yeah, I would love to get my hands on these. One question that I have about these, and maybe it's more like a question about Chinese manufacturers in general. What are the update promises on phones like these? Because I know here in the US, it kind of seems like the peak promise now, with Samsung and with Google and everything is 7 years OS and security. Are these phones in these other markets, are they shooting for the same thing, or are they more forgiving? Are the consumers more forgiving on the update front and allowing for less?
From what I gather, it's definitely not a priority still for the Chinese market.
Got it.
I mean, it's some companies have. I can't remember. Honor has an official stance on this, which is not horrible, but it's not Google, Apple, Samsung good, right? And they are definitely like I have the feeling people are just buying phones as a disposable thing there, and just like
Yeah,
just gonna
that's
get
what
a
I was
new one.
wondering.
They want the latest all the time. They want the best specs, so they're just like, I don't know where these other phones end up with hand me downs or in landfills. It's hard to tell,
Yeah,
sadly.
yeah. The problem.
So, but anyway, still impressive, and
Very.
kudos for Honor for kind of a two punch kind of like approach here.
Hmm.
But I am more excited about the next thing because I know I'll get devices. Maybe. Probably. If they make global versions of the devices, I might get them. It's Xiaomi's basically revealed that they have an event on the 19th of July, and they're going to launch the Mi Mix Fold 4, which is their folding phone, their tablet style phone, alongside the Redmi K70 Ultra, which we talked about last week, which is kind of the high-end Redmi phone, which is going to be like a upper mid-range, lower tier flagship. Think OnePlus 12 competitors, but 12R, right? So there's that phone, the Redmi K7 Ultra, and then there's a folding phone, which is like a tablet style Fold 4. And then a couple of days later, the president of Xiaomi teased a flip phone as well called the Xiaomi Mi Mix Flip. And forgive my insolence, but this looks a lot like a Moto Razr.
It really does.
With a full on, like the entire front of the screen, like the new Razr Plus 2024 that I covered when I was in New York a couple of weeks back, has, a 4-inch display that with equal bezels all the way around that covers the entire front. And it's got the cameras kind of protruding through. And this is basically the same deal, but the cameras are vertical instead of horizontal. But it looks super hot and I dig it. What are your thoughts on these?
Well, I'm kind of surprised that Xiaomi hasn't had a flip at this point, because I feel I continue to believe that when it comes to the foldable market, the flip form factor is really the one that's going to get a lot more people converted over than the fold at this point. Probably because they're less expensive, but also because they replicate the form factor that we're all used to when it's all folded out at the end of the day, and it's a good trade off. So I think this looks really really sweet. Having the entire front be the display the way that we're seeing with Motorola, the way that we're not seeing with Samsung necessarily. I think that's the way to go. It's certainly the current hotness, and it looks like they've nailed it.
Yeah. And the thing is, Samsung, really feels dated after you look at that, right? Like you look at
Yeah,
this phone
totally.
and you look at a Z Flip 6 and you're like, oh, wow. Okay. That looks like last year's phone now. And, and this is the problem I have with the Fold and the Flip this year from Samsung. I'm reviewing the Fold right now for Hot Hardware, and it's growing on me because it is wider, it is thinner, it does feel a little more cohesive. But the fact that it's like third generation of the same cameras, the fact that, they just haven't applied themselves, they're
really
cruising
iterative.
along. It's like so obvious.
Yeah.
And Samsung has so much R&D and engineering know-how. I'm just surprised they're just not pushing the envelope, especially in that category, which is kind of like the pinnacle of technology in phones today.
Yeah.
It's weird to me.
And they were there before.
You look at
before everyone, kind of pushing that boundary from the beginning. You'd think they'd kind of keep up that momentum, but they've really settled into kind of more of an iterative approach, which I guess gives their devices of that that category a polish to a certain degree, but it just kind of lacks some inventiveness, lacks some excitement around it at this point.
yeah, and the other thing that I think stands out for me is that then you look at the contrast that Honor bring to the table with those new folding phones, and that Xiaomi is bringing to the table with these new folding phones. You're like, am I in a parallel universe here? Like we are. It's called America, where the only thing that matters is Samsung and Apple, and nothing else seems to matter. And OnePlus and Moto are barely making a ding, and Google with Pixel, and their ding is very lovable, but it's still a ding, And then it's the same. It's like, we're about to fall behind on electric cars because, now we're putting tariffs on the Chinese. That's not the way to go. We need to compete, right? But this like, even the companies that are not American companies that are kind of like the best sellers in the tech side are kind of like, giving up and just cruising along. It's like, I feel like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, America is going to be behind in everything just because there's no need, like the manufacturers are not going to need to care because, people are not caring and people are just content with their Samsungs and Apples and content with driving gas cars and not letting the Chinese, compete on the EV front. And here we are. And it's the same thing with phones. Like, I hate to say this because, there's still a lot of controversy about it, but like Honor spawned out of Huawei, and I hate to say this, but it seems to me that a lot of that Huawei breakthrough technology know-how ended up at Honor, and yet, they're not banned, but they're not available here. So like, we're missing out, is what I'm saying, guys.
Yeah.
We're missing out.
I completely agree. Being
Damn,
overseas and seeing some of these devices, I definitely felt the FOMO. I was like, man, why can't we get some of these phones over in the US? I wish that we could.
Every time you travel, you're like, what the hell? Like I was in Argentina earlier this year because I went to Antarctica, and so I spent a few days in Buenos Aires, and I'm like, holy crap, like Moto's everywhere here, like South America is well known for being Moto hotspots, and it is, and it's like so refreshing to see, even though they're not really particularly fancy phones, to like see these Motos you never hear or see here, you know?
Dominating.
And I love that about traveling. You go to Japan, lots of pixels, also the Bay Area here, actually quite a few pixels. Surprisingly, you probably noticed that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got a couple of more things on the radar here. Red Magic 9S, which was announced a couple of weeks back, is now officially a global phone, so you can buy it for North America. Red Magic and Nubia are both available through their own stores in North America with US bans and US warranties and the whole shebang. So, the 9S just improves over the 9 before it, the 9 Pro and 9S Pro, by just cranking up the clock speed on the Snapdragon Gen 3. Basically, it's a binned version, like hand-picked off the assembly line that can run faster and put in these phones, which is going to make them work a little better. And, I tested the Red Magic 9 Pro, and, it had some issues with thermals for the first time, even with the fan. It throttled a little bit, which I've never seen on a Red Magic. And I think that with this 9S, they're trying to solve this problem. Like, not only are they picking bin chips from Qualcomm, but they are actually improving the cooling solution and the fan speed and stuff to compensate for the fact that the 8 Gen 3 is a pretty power-hungry and hot-running chip. So basically, the 9S Pro and the 9S Pro Plus, I think, are coming to the global markets. And so if you want a gaming phone, it's going to be a good deal. And I think that's what's exciting.
Flat phones and flat sides.
Oh,
we were talking about that earlier.
Here,
this is like this screams like old Sony phones to me. You remember how those used to be the boxiest of boxy phones? This one looks like a Sony to me.
It's got such a monolith vibe to it. Like it doesn't even have a camera bump. Like the cameras are flush. So same with the 9.
How good are the cameras if they're that flush?
They're actually really interesting. It's interesting you brought that up because remember, this is just a repackaged 9 series, right? So the 9S is just slightly faster chip and better, better thermal performance. But the rest of it is identical. The specs are identical. The camera's identical. Typically, I've reviewed every Red Magic every year, and the cameras are always kind of sucky. Last year's 8 series with meh, and this year, I'm like, I tried it and I'm like, wow, those cameras don't suck. Like there's no OIS on the main sensor, for example. There are some compromises, but for the first time I was like, this is flagship worthy camera for, like the first time on a Red Magic where I was like, okay, I can use this. It works at night. It's good. And they don't have a sticker cam either. Like they used to always have a stupid third camera that did nothing, and now it's just two cameras, and they're not screwing around. Mm-hmm. So honestly, I'm not saying it's like going to be a Pixel quality camera, but it's probably as good as like a OnePlus 12R or maybe a nothing Phone 2A or, maybe one of the better Motos. So that's not bad. It's not bad.
No, not bad at all. Yeah, it's an interesting.
But speaking of cameras and phones made by Red Magic and Nubia or sister brands, on July 23rd, Nubia is announcing some new phones. And again, the Z60 Ultra leading version, I love that name, so Chinese. Nubia Z60 Ultra leading version. What the hell? Ultra leading version?
Ultra leading version. Yeah, that's weird. It's going to
basically have that same Snapdragon Gen 3 binned out of the assembly line, overclocked, the one that performed the best, pulled out of the manufacturing line. And they're going to put them in the same chassis as they had for the Z60 Ultra in February, which they launched at MWC. And so as you can see, it's the same display, same under-display camera. Basically, this is the Red Magic's the gaming phone, this is the camera phone, and they're both the same chassis, the same everything,
I love the red splash around the camera.
Yeah, I love the camera pod on this. It does protrude on this one, and it has a periscope telephoto and stuff. So
has a nice personality to it.
Yeah,
I like it.
It really does. And so then they have another one, the Z60S Pro, which we just have some kind of like murky renders of right now.
Obscure.
And that one is actually an evolution of last year's Z50S Pro. So if you remember the industrial design of that phone, those kind of like, teaser renderings or photos are very much in line. So I think what they've done is just an upgraded version of last year's Z50S Pro into a Z60S Pro. Mm-hmm. So nothing too great about that, but it's interesting because the Nubia phones, they are sold here. They exist on their store.
That's a brand that I never see out in the wild.
I know, but my point is that they sell here. They have 5G support for US bands. They have, like, you can use them on T-Mobile and AT&T, not Verizon, of course, as always. And you can get a warranty on them. Yet, like, do they sell any? They have that folding flip phone. They sell a folding flip phone. That's, like, affordable. That's, like, competing with the base model Razr.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just go to their website, have a look. It's like, it's right there. Here, I'm going to try Nubia US and see. Yeah, there you go. Nubia Flip 5G is called. Buy now. It costs $499 for a folding flip phone with poor specs.
But it gets you your flip phone for not that much money.
I mean, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. It's like, it's not like, oh, you're going to buy this phone and it's going to be imported by Amazon and half the bands won't work. No.
Right.
You can buy this phone, it'll work just fine. They're not cheating, but who's going to buy that?
Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know that I've ever seen a Nubia phone floating out in the wild, spotted one with my eyes anyways.
But then again, let's be fair. Have you seen a OnePlus open in the wild?
That's a good question. I want to say yes, but I think you're right. I probably haven't. Yeah, outside of us, it's probably.
And that's what I'm saying. It's like I'm a huge fan of OnePlus, and I think there are probably a lot of OnePlus 12s out there because it is a really good phone. The 12R is just as good, to be honest with you. I mean, for the money, if you want to save a little bit of money and you don't need everything, 12R is really solid. But the Open, like, even though, these phones are advertised with $100 off or $200 off from the get-go, right? Because you can trade in anything, like a log on fire, and they'll give you a phone for it.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't understand why you don't see more of them. Yet I do see Samsung Galaxy Z Folds in the wild.
Yeah, that happens.
It happens more than I see the Flip, actually, which is really interesting.
Which is very odd to me. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I imagined that the Flip would be
have you noticed this? Have you had a flip phone in your regular rotation where you go and you paste for something at a coffee shop and people are like, oh, is this the Flip phone? And they're like, because to me the reaction is always like, oh, ooh, unicorn. I'm going to look at it. Can I touch it? Can I play with it?
I've heard these things exist.
And they'll go back to their iPhone and they will never buy it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a weird thing. It's like you're so excited about it. But you would never leave your iPhone, would you?
But if Apple released it, then
so this
they'd
is
be
what
like,
I keep saying.
Yeah.
Apple needs to make a flip folding phone simply because it would obliterate the folding market in a heartbeat. Like it would be game over for Samsung.
I think you're right.
And they would do it right. Like they would do it better than Samsung does in every way. And that's why I kind of want them to do it. But again, they have what's the incentive for them? It's a lot of money to develop that. Then you have the support issues related to it. And I'm not sure Apple's quite at the stage where they can feel confident that it's going to be as robust as a regular iPhone.
I mean, would an Apple foldable have better legs than the Apple Vision Pro, which now they're cutting back on that because it's
the Apple Vision Pro was always a hard sell. It's a whole
it was.
Can't compare.
I'm
not talking about a fold like a tablet fold. I'm talking about just a flip fold.
Just a flip. Yeah, totally.
Like basically make an iPhone 15, not 15 Pro, but a 15 that folds and sell it for the same price as a 15 Pro. That's your recipe, Apple.
Boom.
And I can guarantee you the flip from Samsung is done with that moment happens. It's game over. And you saw the article I think Will Saddleberg wrote a while back on Android, whatever the website is, I can't remember.
Android Police.
And it was, I think it's Police. And it was like, how about the future of Android? Like we're screwed. Like people use iPhones, Jason. Like the reality is you go out there and young people, teenagers are on iPhones.
Heck yeah. My teenager is on an iPhone. I gave her the option. We are an Android household. I gave her the option and she did not want it.
How do we fix that? Like we can't, right?
Here in the US, I don't know that we can. I mean, how do you fix that? How do you change the forces of all of the, especially with children, which is, I think, a large part of where this all happens. It's become part of the DNA of the social structure of school for so many kids. And I don't know how you undo that. And that sets the path. I've witnessed it. I've witnessed it with my daughter, Yeah. And I'm also not so entrenched in Android that I'm like, no, I'm the same. You shouldn't do that.
I get it. Like I'm not going to fight about people about it. I'm just saying, like, I'm just wondering, like, how would a folding phone from Apple play out? Because I think that I think it would be a big success. Me too. Personally. But I'm just saying it's the only thing right now potentially holding people back into, like, potentially I could see someone saying, I really, really love the flip form factor. I'm going to switch from my iPhone to a Z Flip. It's
the only way I can get a foldable or a flippable is to be on Android.
I could see that happening for somebody who's a little, not maybe super invested in the iPhone ecosystem. Maybe they're in Europe and they use WhatsApp instead of using, iMessage or whatever. Yep. But otherwise, like if they make a flip, that's it. Like that's it. There's no reason to go to Android at all. For us old farts, that are invested in our Android ecosystem, for us Pixel fans, I don't want to sound negative, but like that crosses my mind on a semi-regular basis. Does it cross your mind?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess what I'm curious about is, do we have any indication that Apple is working on any of this? I feel like we haven't really even heard about it. Also, at the same time, like foldables and flippables are neat, no question. The phone industry, Samsungs and Googles and everything, they're all following that breadcrumb trail because it's innovation in mobile, in mobile computing. But I mean, are the numbers telling us that that's actually what people on a wide spectrum truly want? Like, it's innovative and it's different. And that's why I think I get excited about it. But I'm still not entirely convinced that everybody actually wants one. You know what I mean?
I think that they don't want one because they don't know what it's like to use because they're iPhone users.
Okay.
Like, I think there's a category of people who will never switch to a folding phone. And obviously, Apple caters to them. Everybody caters to them, right? Yeah. You can buy an iPhone SE and spend $500 and have an iPhone access. You don't have to spend $1,000 for an iPhone. So you even have choices there. Yeah. But bear with me for a second in that thought process of, what if they made a folding flip phone? All of a sudden, you've got an entire new form factor with all of the Apple goodness. And, people who want that, like we'll really know at that point when it's out whether people buy it. It's like we'll know when Apple a year later discontinues it, like they did with the iPhone Mini, because they don't sell enough of them. You know what I'm saying? That's the test. If they don't discontinue it, then we know it's a success.
I just have a feeling if Apple did that, it would be a success. But
me too.
For the reason that you're saying, yeah, because people
like right now,
probably by and large do not understand why they might want a foldable. And if
right
Apple was
now,
to do it, then they would finally give it a chance.
We don't know because Samsung doesn't sell enough of them, at least in this market.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I would say right now it's still very, you know, like Theo, for example, my spouse, has an iPhone for their US number, and for our Canadian, we both have 2 SIM cards and 2 phones. The Canadian, they have a Moto Razr Plus 2023. They had a Z Flip before that. And they don't like Android at all. They don't like it. They're very iPhone. They're used to iPhone. So for them, it's too foreign still, even after 3 years of using Android on a flip phone. But they love the form factor. Absolutely love it. They absolutely use it for more things than they use their iPhone most of the time. But then they get cranky about the software and the user experience. So they're battling the software and the user experience because they love the form factor. So I think the form factor has legs. So now that's why I'm saying if Apple did it, like it's end game. Like they I don't know why they're sitting on this. It's stupid.
Too busy working on VR.
On Vision Pro.
On Vision Pro. Yes.
On that note, we should wrap up. Jason, what do you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internets? Where is all the stuff you do, and where are your social media handles? Tell us the whole shebang.
So many things, so much shebang to talk about. First of all, thank you, Miriam. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.
I enjoy talking about some of these phones because we do talk about some of this stuff on Android Faithful, which is one of my podcasts that I do about the world of Android. But some of these phones, like we talk about them as if they're obscure, kind of, far off in the distance, because they're not here in the US and we have very little opportunity to play with them. So I love getting the chance to do that. So that's Android Faithful, AndroidFaithful.com. That's the podcast that I do with basically the All About Android crew from Twit days. We now have a new podcast, and we've been doing that for about a year now. I've been
on it. It's awesome.
Yes, of course. And we'll have you back again.
Anytime.
It's a lot of fun. And then the stuff that I'm doing, I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Techsploder, one word, Techsploder. And there you can get the AI Inside podcast that I do with Jeff Jarvis. I do a Techsploder podcast, which is like conversations with my friends in tech about their passion for tech and what that, how the human experience around technology. Miriam, I'm going to have you on here shortly.
Yay.
And I'm looking forward to that. And really just do, that's also the home for like my reviews, my phone reviews, technology reviews, AI services, you name it. I'm really playing around with the format and the flexibility that I have as an independent content creator to do whatever sounds fun. So that's really what I'm doing right now.
All right. And then your social media handles?
Oh, you can find me at, on X at Jason Howell. Just search for Jason Howell or that Jason Howell, because it really just depends on whether I was able to secure it early enough or not.
Yeah, right. Are you also on Threads and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I'm on Threads as well.
A lot of my audience is on Threads now. So, yeah. Well, you know where to find me, folks. I'm at Tankgirl, TNKGRL on Twitter, on Threads, on Blue Sky, on Insta, everywhere basically. So please follow me and chat with me about this podcast, chat with me and Jason about this podcast, ask us questions. And you know where the podcast is, mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the major platforms. If your podcast listening app lets you rate or review the show, please consider doing that. It helps. There's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. I've got a couple of videos recently there, hands-on with the Moto phones, hands-on with the Samsung stuff. So check that out. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell. Tell me in the comments what you think of these devices, what you think of the podcast, all that good stuff. And there's a Patreon, patreon.com. We mentioned it a few times. We've shown some devices. You can see our faces and our silliness. Patreon.com/Tankgirl, patreon.com/TNKGRL. For $5 a month, you get a video version of the podcast a day in advance usually. and you can listen and watch and, be more present, as it were, with us. It's fun. So consider joining. If you can afford more, great. If you can't afford as much, there's other tiers there. And check it out. Patreon.com/TNKGRL. Also, you can donate through PayPal. There's a link in the show notes. So if you want to buy me a coffee, that's another option. I also want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. They're pretty great. You know that they now roam in Canada? So if you're like me, by country, you can, with just a regular Mint account, no matter which one you pick, just works in Canada for data, for calls, for text, for everything. It's like awesome. So check them out. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And I want to thank you, Jason, for being my guest. Thanks so much for coming on the show yet again.
Thank you, Miriam. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll have you on the show again at some point in the future. And folks, we will have another show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.